dinner plan?
There's no use in looking back. Gotta laugh, we gotta live. 'Cause I'm so over the past, and I'm living it fast. Underneath the strobe lights, ready for a crazy night. I can hear your heartbeat banging loud like a drum. Let me be your only one. Do you feel what I feel? I'm addicted to the sound. Turn it loud, just make it play. When the love is all around, dream away with you today. Flying higher than the stars, we'll be dancing till the dawn. The night is young, so are we. So close your eyes and set it free. Underneath the strobe lights, ready for a crazy night. I can hear your heartbeat.
So many memories. Welcome to this our.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that either. Welcome to this our inaugural episode of WebDB Instant Tips, coming to you live every Friday at 12:05 Eastern Time for 5 minutes only from Massachusetts. My name is Hayden.
Hey, hi, Hayden. So I must have missed the memo. I thought we were doing our anniversary show, 50th for Apex Instant Tips. What's with the WebDB?
Well, maybe I'm the one who's confused. I was researching our special guest, and I can see that he's the creator of Oracle WebDB. What am I missing?
Oh no, yeah. Well, you're right. He is the creator of WebDB, but WebDB became Oracle Portal and moved on that direction. But he actually, believe it or not, is also one of the two founders, along with Joel Coleman, of Apex. So maybe we should switch back to being about Apex.
Yeah, so let me correct the record. This is the 50th episode of Apex Instant Tips. And without further ado, let's bring on our special guest. Welcome, Mike Hichwa.
Hello.
This is already our longest show because that intro is longer than the whole show is supposed to be. So, well, Mike, I know you watch every week. You're a super avid watcher, and I'm sure you've learned a lot from us.
Yes.
But today you get to spend only 5 minutes only, sharing some grand wisdom with us.
Okay, so since Oracle Apex has a new release, 21.2, I'm going to show nothing of that. But I'm going to give you a tip you can use pretty much any version of Apex. And it kind of addresses one of my pet peeves, which is ease of use and end user experience. And so here's my demo.
So let me go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. Hold on. So in my demo, I'm going to...
and I'm kicking off a clock, Mike. So just
all right. Now the clock starts. Okay. So I've got a bunch of projects, and these projects have particular skills that are required to meet those projects. And my goal in this application as a manager is to assign an appropriate developer for this project. And so this particular project's employee directory is going to have these skills. Let me see if I can remember them. PL, SQL, Oracle, Apex. I think I got that. Apex has a wonderful feature called faceted search. Somebody thought of that. Must be brilliant. What?
Demos never work well. There we go.
Oh, you were right about the bandwidth or something. Okay, so sorry. It's just stopped.
Oh, interesting.
Hold on. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Now I'm going to try and remember what I was saying. It was something like Oracle Apex and
whoever came up with faceted search.
SQL or PL SQL.
SQL maybe. Oh, there's SQL. Oh, here's some people that might be good for this particular project. Oh, this guy Anton, I know him. So I'm going to assign Anton to this project. So I go down here, and luckily his name begins with N, because if it began with something else, I'd have to scroll way too long for my taste. So now I've 100% match. I got the perfect developer for this thing. So the problem is solved. Everything's wonderful. but that's not really the case because I had to go between tabs. The network was slow as hell. It was super painful. We had to make chitter chatter in the beginning. So what I want to do is I want to make it so that the system suggests a list of values. So I'm going to edit this page, and I'm in Page Designer now, and I'm going to find the developer, and I'm going to go to the list of values, and I have pre-created a suggested developers list of values. And this is the whole tech tip. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to reload this. And we have this next system here. It's this facilities utilization system. It's got all these different skills. And I'm not going to click that tab. I'm not going to wait forever. I'm just going to click here, and it's going to put a star and say this particular developer is remarkably highest ranked or highest match, and I got an 89% match, not 100% match. 89 is pretty good. And so,
Hayden, sorry, Hayden.
But you know, it's a much more. This is a simplest system, you know, and this one's more complicated with deeper skills and deeper knowledge requirements. So it's certainly better than clicking here and just scrolling through a random developers ad nauseum, trying to remember if they're the right people, and then choosing somebody and getting a 71% match. Not too bad for a guess, but I just picked up someone at random. So you might be wondering, how does one build one of these systems? And so to understand this, you have to understand the demo. I've got two tables. I've got a developers table, projects table. No other tables are used in this demo. And then, so here's my developers table. It's got developers with skills. Here's my projects table. It's got projects and skills. And my goal is to create a list of values that returns an ID, because I need to populate the developer ID. This is Anton. He's 103. I need to have an icon because I want to put a star by the person that scores best. And so I select the star for the top developers, and I have a first sort, which is to sort the stars on top and everyone else below that, and to sort the stars by my second sort, which is the person with the highest match. And so this is for project one. I ran this query, and the query is here. It's a bit complicated because I have to cast my tags to rows and then join it back, whatever. But the query is not the point. The point is that at the end of the day, this select statement selects these values, and I just use built-in Apex functionality to be able to find developers that meet the goals. So if I click on a project, I can find the best fit developer right away. Boom, there I am.
I love this as a tip and as a UI perspective. I think you're right. The query most of us can write. How do you get that star to show? What's the magic there?
Oh, sure. So if I go here and I click here, and so running at a super zoomed font so people can see things. Oh, so that's going to be my shared components.
And we're going to give you an extra 20 seconds or so, Mike, just because of our bandwidth, but we're hitting up against it right now.
Okay, so hold on. So I go to suggested developers, and here's my query. And right here, we have an icon. And so what I do is I have the icon, and I only find the top 3 developers, the top 3 matches. And so I have this with clause that finds the top 3 matches, and here I select if the ID, if I've selected somebody who's not null, then I give them an FA star, and then I can put the icon is this icon. Otherwise, the icon is null, in which case only the stars see the stars, and everyone else doesn't see the star.
All right. Well, I think that covers our 5 minutes. That's the hook right there. We do have a wisdom of the week, and and this week a shameless plug. So, Mike, if you're willing to stick around, we can answer a few questions. Anybody that wants to can bug out now, do all the things, smash the bell, send letters to your friends,
subscribe,
whatever the kids do these days. So yeah, It's funny. I knew that icon was there, but I don't know that I've ever personally used it. So I thought it looked awesome.
But I mean, the problem is if you use the icon, unless you assign a different icon, then it's just overwhelming. Like you see a repeated icon, and that repetition isn't really good UI, and so there has to be an appropriate use. And I think this tech tip is the appropriate use.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. We'll do our wisdom of the week, then we'll answer any questions people have, and then we'll get in our shameless plug.
Let's do it.
This week's wisdom of the week is that a grand vision is realized through a multitude of painstakingly crafted details. And I think that's a great wisdom of the week for this week. Mike is the grand vision of Apex. But what makes Apex so successful is these little details that you just showed today, Mike. I think that's that's really, for me, that's what has made Apex my tool of choice, is that this grand vision is supported by all of these details.
Right.
So thank you.
Rome was built with a series of bricks.
That's right. Yeah. I guess that's the same thing, right? That's the same way to put it. So let's open up to any questions. I know I have a few. The first question I have is, Mike, even though I think all of us could write this particular SQL statement that you wrote, if you don't mind sharing it, we'll put it in the show notes, because I think it is demonstrative of, if you know SQL, it's going to help you a lot.
Yeah, no problem. I'll share it with you guys, and you guys can do with it as you wish.
Oh,
yeah, so I mean, you could have a second tip on that particular SQL statement, but that wasn't the point of this demo. The point of this demo was to somehow put stars on some columns and not on other columns.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I think that definitely works. So Rich Soul has a question about, what are your thoughts on a single table per LOV versus one table for all of your LOVs?
Well, I like having a single table for larger systems. It just simplifies life, and you can have fewer Apex pages in your application. But I don't think it's a major foul or major snafu if you like things another way. Like the benefit I would see is that if you have 40 different lookup tables, you're cluttering your data dictionary with 40 extra tables. You're cluttering the Apex pages, because you might build one different Apex page per thing, and it's just a lot of clutter that can be alleviated. Clearly, if you have some list of values with 50,000 rows, maybe those should be in standalone tables, but otherwise they should probably be in a shared table.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I think if your system needs referential integrity against those things for some reason, then you need to do a separate one. Like if
there's no externality or other reason, and you have if you have only 3, I'd probably create them as tables. But if you have 50, then you're just you have 50 extra pages to maintain them, etc.
Yeah.
Or 100 if you have a form and a report for each.
I like that rule of thumb.
Let's see. Do we have anything else? And Mike coded. Let's see. Mike coded all those cool, yes, all the cool decals that I was talking about that make up Apex.
I did code the SQL, although I'm going to pass it by Connor McDonald. He's going to tell me how I should have written it.
Yes. Well, back to the. Go ahead, Hayden.
I was going to say, from a use case standpoint, my mind is racing with all the ways in which I can apply the wisdom you just shared, Mike. It is often the case that I'm coding a drop-down list of countries, and I sympathize with residents of the United States or the United Kingdom, where first off, they have to go to the end of the list to find their countries, and sometimes in the case of the United Kingdom, they have to assume ahead of time whether they're looking at the UK, Great Britain, England, or they don't really know.
Yeah, countries is a great example. Another good example, like might use Oracle Spatial and be able to find locations or countries that are closest to you and star them, or other things, and it allows you to do that. And so there's so many different cases where having the recommended list just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I love that for countries, because you could actually use the region that their browser is returning to you to know where they are.
Yes.
That's a great
Take
one.
an educated guess. You got it
Yeah.
wrong. No problem. Then start to find your name in amongst the other 200 names.
So Rich is coming in with another question. When do you use a static LOV versus a dynamic LOV? I'll tell you, until I joined InSum, I was not a big fan of static LOVs. I figured it's always good to put them someplace else. But having joined InSum, I've done a lot with multilingual applications, and static LOVs just make my life so much easier, so much so that I'm willing to do a code promotion to not have to come up with some other way to translate my own data.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That is exactly the poster child reason to do it. Yes.
Yeah. It's just so Apex makes translations so easy. If you do anything else, you have to build that whole underlying architecture for how you're going to translate it. And there's some places where you're just going to have to do that. But like I said, I'm willing to do a code promotion to avoid writing whatever it would take otherwise. I had one for you, Mike. So one of the features I do like is when you're doing a sort of a regular select list, you can put the quick links at the bottom. So you don't even have to open up the select list.
Right.
But you can only do static values for that. It would be great to have.
Yeah, so that's actually how this whole thing, the genesis of this whole thing is. So I was chatting with Shakib, and we were saying, hey, I want to do this demo, and I want to pre-create these things. Oh, they're static. Of course, you can make them static based on substitution strings, and you can make them pseudo-dynamic, and you can create, suggestion 1, 2, 3 on your page. Then you could populate them in a PL SQL before header process, and then, but really, that's just a bunch of complexity. And so we thought that as well, that when you want something to be responsive, you want it to work on mobile, you want it to make the best use of the real estate, having these suggested chips underneath your select list might be a bit awkward. And so we thought that it would be best if it was just simply inside of the select list and it had the stars. And that was sort of the genesis of because I knew I wanted to do this as my tip, which is to select give people suggested values for things, but then the question was how, and I thought that in works as well. In this, if you want to do them as chips underneath, you could do that. It's a little bit of a hassle. Of course, it was a hassle to build extra complexity in my SQL to somehow identify the rows which were suggested or featured.
Yeah, I guess it's different UI alternatives, but
for example, if you had 5 list values in your page and you wanted to have suggestions on each, oh geez, well then I don't know, and then it becomes overload, right? And so if people might remember early versions of Apex, I put that into Apex itself that would help you do that, and it's my vision in a future version of Apex to always recommend. So for example, you want to create a report in a table. Why don't we suggest the last 3 tables you created? So that's pretty much 100% of the types of tables I create. And I've got 700 or 800 tables in my particular schema that I use most frequently. And it's just a pain. I can't remember if I prefixed my table or what I called it, and I have to go find it. It's just a hassle.
Ah, I like that. Yeah. And the other design pattern that I make use of is next to drop-down lists in the builder, there's a little icon that gives you the most common ones there as well. So you could do something like that. But I think that, like you said, I think from a screen real estate perspective, exactly what you did with the stars is, it's certainly the most efficient from a screen perspective.
Yeah.
One choice that one might have to think through is, in the case that you demonstrated, Mike, would Anton Nielsen show up, start at the front, at the top, and alphabetically in the list below, or would he only show up in the first instance? And what might
and depending on how you wrote your SQL, you could make both work. But the way I wrote the SQL is that it's it only shows once, and so basically it's just a sort. So I basically have these 2 different sort columns, and I sort the star people first. There's either a 0 or a 1, and if you're a star, you're a 1. You're a 0, and if you're not a star, you're a 1. Then that allows me just to have it in only one place, because it'd be kind of weird if you search for somebody like Anton, he came up twice. It's like,
that's true.
Is he in the database twice? Did someone screw up? Did not put a primary key? Clearly the system's crap. So to avoid that particular reaction, you just do it that way.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, another case where SQL is your friend, right? You can do Yeah. Well, great. Well, I think our biggest question asker was Rich today. So maybe we'll have to give him
Thanks
some.
to Rich.
Some
Yes.
Yes.
But Hayden, I understand we have a shameless plug for this, and Mike, maybe you can listen in on our shameless plug here.
Yes. So not so much an off-topic tip, but let me actually go ahead and share my screen, though I have not prepared to do so. But over the course of our 50 episodes, we have compiled a list of feature requests that we have posted to oracleapex.com/ideas, and we wanted to advertise them to our viewers. So I'm going to share my screen.
So you're going to shamelessly plug ideas that you found running your excellent consulting organization that are actually be useful, and you want other people to agree with you on your particular idea.
That's right.
Exactly it.
Got it.
So if you're watching, please check out the link that is currently displayed on your screen. Take a look at our ideas. They're each supported by the associated episode that inspired the idea. If you agree with them, vote for them. And if enough of you vote for them, then Mike will have to pay attention.
He'll be forced to.
Yeah.
Well, we're a data-driven organization, so we go after the data. I mean, you got to be data-driven.
Perfect. Well, you've all wasted a perfectly good 21 minutes with us today. So hopefully we'll see you next week as well. Thank you so much, Mike. And
yes, thank you,
I
Mike.
think that's our show.
Anytime. Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See you next Friday.